Good day everyone, especially to our instructor, Ma'am Sharon Ronquillo. We are the Group 8 and we are going to present Lesson 3 which is the Project Resource Allocation. By the way, I am Roselyn Vigonti Kumaheg, the first reporter. So, the learning objective of this topic is that the students are expected to differentiate crushing and fast tracking to expedite a project and define resource loading, discuss the nature of activity slope and how it is indicated, identify priority rules and what priority rule is best overall, and demonstrate the content knowledge and understanding of project resource in order to appreciate the importance of project resource allocation. So project resource allocation, it involves identifying and assigning resources to various activities. Resource allocations, it helps project managers plan ahead of time. It gives them better visibility into the project that they are managing. Critical Path Method or CPM, expediting a project. CPM is somehow similar to Program Evaluation and Review Technique or PERT. This allows project manager or PM to trade time cost or vice versa. In CPM, two activity times and costs are specified, if appropriate for each activity. The first time-cost combination is called normal, and the second set referred to as crush. So the critical path method, it is a technique where you identify tasks that are necessary for project completion and determine scheduling flexibilities. Critical path is used by the manager to estimate the total duration of a project. There are two activities in CPM. The first is the time-cost combination that is called normal, and the second is referred to as crush. Normal times are normal, and the second is same sense as the time estimate of the 3 times used in PERT. The second activity in CPM, which is crush times, is the result from an attempt to expedite the activity by the application of additional resources like overtime, special equipment, and material. Crushing a project. While standard practice and rules of thumb are sufficient for estimating the resource needs for normal progress, careful planning is critical when attempting to expedite or crush a project. Crush plans that appear feasible when considered activity by activity may incorporate impossible assumptions about resource availability. So project crushing, this involves shortening the expected time taken for a project. Crushing a project done by increasing the resources to the project, which help make tasks take less time than what they were planned for. Of course, this also adds to the cost of the overall project. Consider data table in 3.0. First, compute a cost times slope for activity that can be expedited crush. Slope is defined as follows. Slope equal crush cost, normal cost over crush time, normal time. This table is an example of 2 times CPM. A given activity may have only 2 or 3 technically feasible durations. The pesos per day of such activities is relevant only if the whole crush increment is useful. In the table 3.0, the activity D have a partial crushing allowed, while the activity A is not allowed for partial crushing.
Good day, ma'am. I am Raymond G.S. Orpelia. I am the second reporter. In table 3.1, this table represents the activity slope cost per period for crushing. One must remember that crushing a project results in a change of technology with which something is done. Different amounts of labor shovel input may result in a job that takes anywhere from 1 to 3 days. A 30-day toxicity test for a new drug requires 30 days, no more, no less. In order to crash a project, follow two simple principles. First, exception, focus on the critical paths. When trying to shorten the duration of project, with the exception noted above, when a resource used by an activity not only critical path is needed for another project. Second, when shortening a project duration, select the best expensive way to do it. Fast tracking a project. Another way to expedite a project is known as fast tracking. This term has been applied most to construction projects, but the technique can be used in many other types of projects. Fast tracking seems to be a reasonable way to expedite construction projects as well as another types of projects when the early build and carry out steps are fairly routine and well understood. So when we say fast tracking a project is a technique where activities are performed in parallel instead of being carried out sequentially using original schedule. Simply put, fast tracking a project means different tasks are worked on simultaneously instead of waiting for each task to be completed separately. However, fast tracking can only be applied if the aforementioned activities can actually be feasibly overlapped. Example, construction project. Instead of having one person wire a new house, you could add additional resources rather hire more electrician to get the job done faster.
Good day, Mom. By the way, I am Jamaica D. Imasa, the third reporter. My topic is all about the resource allocation problem. So, the resource allocation problem, it refers to individual types of labor, specific facilities, kinds of materials, individual pieces of equipment, and other discrete inputs that are relevant to an individual project but are limited in availability. So, the resource allocation, it arises as an issue because the resources of a society are in limited supply, whereas human wants are usually unlimited, and because any given resource can have many alternative uses. So, it is possible that some additional but useful resources can be added at little or no cost to a project during crisis period. At other times, some resource in abundant supply may be traded for scarce ones. Most of the time, however, these trades entail additional cost to the organization. So, a primary responsibility for the PM is to make to do with what is available. So, there are two extreme points of relationship between time, use, and resource. These are the time limited and the resource limited. So, the time limited, the project must be finished by a certain time using a few resources possible. But it is time not resource usage that is critical. Then, the resource limited. The project must be finished as soon as possible, but without exceeding some specific level of resource usage or some general usage constraint. So the next topic is all about the resource loading. So the resource loading, loading describes the amounts of individual resources an existing schedule requires during the specific time periods. So the resource loading chiefly engage manpower or employees. Through resource loading, a project manager can forecast an employee's hours for the year and see how tasks can be allocated. So there are the disadvantages to resource loading is that the employee cannot be 100% book Resource loading enhances the possibility that a project will not be finished on time for the reason that the employees are overloaded with projects. So the resource loading, and this is the process used in project management that fill so the team members' total available time with assignments throughout a work week. For example, if an employee is scheduled at 100% and has to fill in for another employee who is sick or unavailable, that employee will then be working at over 100% capacity. Next is the resource leveling. So, resource leveling aims to minimize the period by period variation in a resource loading by shifting tasks within their slack allowances. The purpose is to create a smoother distribution of resource usage. There are several advantages to smoother resource usage. First, much less hands-on management is required if the use of a given resources is nearly constant over its period of use. The second is if resource usage is level, the PM or the project management may be able to use a just-in-time inventory policy without much worry that the quantity delivered will be wrong. So this the resource leveling, and this is the technique that involves adjusting project dates to ensure it can be completed with available resources. So for example, say you're booked to work on a task for 8 hours for 5 days, but you only need 30 hours to finish the task. So you redistribute the schedule to 6 hours a day. By doing so, you have a more leeway to work on other tasks without affecting the project deadline. So that was the end of our report. Thank you.